siyam nashchela cha siyam nashwala kwa ay naskunanga tie tengen ay squechla tie nok asa penech I chatla sinatie tango chatla sinat sla sinat kusetnich ulnenga slat kusetnich tango kutlax uskwalta tango kailangan nok slat kusetnich kusinia ksana ten I kwastane ksana men unil shweli sitna shweli slatna ten na sila la kulthemia I penech unil shweli la atana men sila la at squikhala chapi siwana mat ay niskwela konek nisela tienok ay niskwananga hela konsela ay niskwananga siyam nishwala kwa siyam na shchela cha u ay niskwachela tienok so jana konsene techel moksen my dear friends and relatives, I just want to welcome each and every one of you here today. It's good to see you. Penech is my ancestral Husetnich name. I come from Husetnich. Husetnich is my homeland. Kwasinia is my tain, and Kwastane is my main. And I've told you who their parents are. The parents of my mother are Kulthemia Penech, and the parents of my father are Squikhalachap and Siwanamat. So it's good to see you all here. It's good to see my family. Good to see good friends here today, and good to see everyone here today, and welcome, Moksen. And the stick the suit, Jit Mok, Sen Atla Tie no Coxis Jays, who quackles a tie nok, who thulak sex, who squash quailakwan. Nilks kaka success nang success squalaquans who la quaquanit. Inisu quam te who aquast talquatie nocate squangs squackle success hal success squalaquans who moxting te squangs. Inusu it mock quaquala tie no coxet squangs tie no cu aite squamquams aquastal tie no. So I just want to commend and acknowledge all of the speakers who are here today, who have summoned the courage to come forward to share with us tonight about their experiences there. And you know, I'm just commending each and every one of you for finding the strength to do that. So I'm going to transition now, and I want to just acknowledge the song that I'm about to share. It comes from my mother, and all the times that she got to spend many years praying, and you know, many of our family had many prayers and fasts and spiritual preparations to for the well-being of our people, in particular for our language, Sanchathan. And so through many of those prayers, through many of those ceremonies, many things, came to them as it has to our people in our way. And so I wanted to share a song that comes from my mother in a lot of those times back in the 70s, as she referred to them as the collective, as the 75ers, spiritual bunch, but radical bunch as well. So, she acknowledged this song as the Thanksgiving, and that's the thing that I want to bring forward, is to just acknowledge that in the spirit of gratitude, to be grateful for another day here, all those good gifts that have been bestowed upon us in these lives that we live. So, haiska siem. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hananayo, hananayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Hanayo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey. Asiem, haiska.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Emily Olson, and I am the founder of the Connection Project, and just so happy you're all here this evening. Hajka Panech for that beautiful welcome and for your friendship. There are a lot of people in this room. I didn't get a chance to hug you all, but I've discovered that pretty much everybody that is here I have made some sort of connection or bond with through this project or through family and friends on this topic of Wellbeing, and it's just such an honor that you're all here and that you show up and support. I have a picture in my home office, and it's a picture from inside of a building, and you can see the window frame. And out beyond the window is a beautiful landscape of the Himalayan mountains, and there's a quote beside it by Buddha, and it says, "It is your mind that creates this world." And as somebody who has discovered a new way of perceiving the world in a healthy way with my own mind over the years, I've discovered that what we create can be done better through healing. And so I believe it's through storytelling where we can create a new world for ourselves and one another. And when we see ourselves developing our own lives in a new way, I think that's when we seek out sharing and helping of others within the community. I really wanted to embrace the theme this year of our connection to the natural world and the healing that it brings. And so I really want to honor the fact that we are in Saanich territory, and the gifts of this place, and the fact that this work for 5 years has occurred here in Saanich territory tells me just how more grateful and gracious I personally need to be for this work happening here. And so anytime I can be out on the land or the water, which has definitely increased this last year with my father-in-law, and in the forest and in nature, and honoring that we are all part of this beautiful world, that there's so much healing there to happen. And so I asked the speakers this year to really consider how their connection to the natural world provides beauty and sustenance and healing for them with their mental health, and to consider it for preparation of tonight's event in sharing their story. I am so beyond grateful for the courageous beings that came forward this year to share their story in song, dance, and with speaking. So thank you for being here. I love you all, and it's going to be a wonderful evening, and make sure you take care of yourselves. Haishka.
My name is Karen Lee White, and the stone that I've just placed is a stone that comes from the base of a mountain in the South Yukon Territory, from Carcross Village. In an unspoken way, our entire lives we're told not to tell these stories. We're told not to get people in trouble or to reveal harms that have been done to us. But I want to focus on the person who helped me on a pathway. And she just left us in that village in Carcross at the base of that mountain on the 15th of August. When I was 19 years old, I left here. I lived in Sidney, and I went to the Yukon Territory and met this magnificent woman who was tall and dignified and beautiful. And she came from the inland Tlingit people. So the Tlingit people came in from Alaska to the South Yukon. And she saw something in me that I didn't know about myself. At that time of my life, because of my history, I didn't know that I was worth anything. I didn't know I had anything to offer to anybody. And when this woman met me, she was incredibly dignified, and she didn't say very much because the Tlingit people and the people in the Yukon don't speak much because they're bush people, and even the little tiny babies are trained not to make noise. It's the strangest thing the first time you enter a camp in the middle of nowhere, and there's a toddler, and they just watch you come into the camp. And they don't make a sound. They're trained from a very young age not to make a noise because their little voices can attract grizzlies because they sound like grizzly cubs. So after staying on in a camp, just with my mother and my late brother and his wife and kids and I camped by the river there on Kitty's property. And after a week, I was told by my sister, because they don't come to you directly. If they have a really important message, they send somebody. And she sent my sister down, and my sister came down. She'd been living with her for quite a while. And she said, Kitty's invited you to stay if you want for the summer. And that was the summer my life changed. Because there was somebody that saw me and saw something in me that I could not possibly see myself. She took my sister and I, my elder sister and I, out hundreds of miles from anywhere to a place called the North Canal. It was up in the Mackenzie Mountains, right up in grizzly country. And it was just us three women with her giant grandson. He was the size of a 13-year-old when he was 9. And her daughter who was disabled. And we were up there for quite a long time, and she just, one day, it gave my sister and I names, and my name was Seiki. This was the name she gave me, and this was her aunt's name. And that name means hill of power and beauty, but actually it means power and beauty of the mountains. When she told me the name, she said hill of power and beauty, and years later when I went back, she said it's the power and beauty of the mountains. And when we get names, it's what we're supposed to aim for, it's not what we already are. But knowing that this beautiful, dignified, traditional woman cared enough to take my sister and I out and give us names and to show us everything on the beautiful land that they live on, that place is covered in medicine, covered in medicine. And she taught us the names of each plant and how to harvest and when to harvest and what it was used for, what it could heal. She taught us how to help little girls so that later they would have an easy childbirth. She taught us so many beautiful things. She taught us to look for signs. I still do this even down here. I look for the signs of season changes because I'm so close to the rhythm of nature, even down here. Up there, there's very obvious seasons. Here, it's less so. We have rain and no rain. But not really, I'm just being silly. But it gave me this phenomenal connection to what the earth does and what the sun does and what the moon does and what nature does and how it calls to us and how each moment of every day we're so intimately connected with it. I took so many injuries that were internal and also, bodily injuries to the north and pretended I didn't have them. If I was asked to lift 400 pounds, I lifted 400 pounds. I found a way. Because the women up there are expected to be able to do things like that. You got to pack a quarter of the moose out down a mountain, you pack a quarter of a moose, you find a way. And so you learn to not hang on to those injuries. And I have labels. I've been diagnosed because, I went to my doctor and said, I want to know what's going on with me. I've been screaming myself awake and a few other things. And he was, I'm not going to mention names, he's retired now, he was wonderful. He said, I'm not sending you to a psychiatrist because they're just going to chuck pills at you. I don't really, no disrespect to any psychiatrists here or in general. But he was afraid that they would just throw something at me, pharmaceutically. And but I went and I got this. She asked me the 20 questions, the big secret questions, or there's not secret, but they have this list where they figure out what's going on. And she asked me why I was there, and I said, well, I've been screaming myself awake, or I hear someone screaming at night and realize it's me. And she asked me the 20 questions and looked at me and said, you have PTSD. And I remember phoning my elder sister, the one that that also got a name from Kitty, and I said, hey, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and her response was, duh. It's like, you gotta love your family, you know. Phenomenal support. And by the way, I want to thank North Star Woman for being here. Because I know that you witnessed a lot of what happened, and I know also that you were subjected to a lot of what happened, and I just want to honor you for being who you are, and for that beautiful name you carry, and for being here. So, this started me on a journey, knowing Kitty and being intimately connected with that beautiful territory up there. And going back recently and being completely flooded with love by people, and I had people coming up to me that I hadn't seen in 30 years. Some people I was talking to and I wasn't even sure who they were. And then it would come to me halfway through the conversation, just before their husband came up, and that would have been really bad not to know them. But those connections that we have to land, to seasons, to the rhythm of nature are so, that was what healed me. I think that started me on the healing. And then I ended up, I'm going to skip forward many decades, I ended up at Sundance and in Dakota Teepee Territory in Manitoba. And when you're dancing from sunup to sundown, you have an intimate connection with that land, an intimate connection, and you're using and harvesting the medicines off that land for, I don't want to reveal anything sacred, but to prepare for that dance. And you're dancing on that beautiful earth from sun up. Before the sun rises, you dance the sun up. And then sometimes, we're still dancing when the sun goes down, and we night dance. And you have this beautiful connection to the sun and the moon and the stars and to the land and all the medicines there. And then with my head Sundance woman, I ended up going to moon dance, and that was a whole other journey where we went to Minnesota for a number of years until COVID, and we danced under the moon, and we danced all night instead of all day. And that gave me this profound connection to the moon, and this is where my healing came. It was through, Kitty put me on that pathway and giving me the name and walking that beautiful land up there, and then going on this journey of going to many places for many ceremonies and having that beautiful connection to different territories. And it's amazing how intimately connected you get to be to the land. It's almost like it's a person that you miss when you don't get to go to Sundance for a few years because of COVID. You miss that land profoundly, and the same with moon dance. I miss that land in Minnesota profoundly. Part of the healing, I think, is there was a time in my life I remember going for massage therapy, and I could not feel the woman's hands on my body. And that was a bit of a big wake-up call for me, because I thought, wow, I must be really disconnected physically from my body. That's really something. I had to focus so hard to feel this woman's hands on my body. It was the weirdest feeling. So now I'm 66, and a couple of years ago I go to a chiropractor who says, you're so injured you can't even do yoga. so I didn't. I did kickboxing and kung fu. So I'm a believer in trusting what your body tells you, and trusting what your body knows, and trusting what you know about yourself. Trusting those rhythms that connect us to all that is, to each other. And I have to say that practicing this beautiful martial art has taught me to relax for the first time in my life. Because the first time you go, they say relax. Even if you're in a giant fight and somebody attacks you, you're supposed to immediately relax. And that was a strange concept, but a powerful one. So I guess my message is break all the rules. Find your healing wherever you can find it. I think we all instinctively know where it is and how to find it. I just want to thank Emily so much for this and for her friendship and all the unseen ones that stand with me, because many of my friends didn't make it. And recently I lost two that didn't make it. They didn't find the way. But it's okay, because where they are, they can impact other people's healing. So thank you for your time and for listening so deeply. And I just wish blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm here. I'm a mom, and I have a mom, and I'm very grateful to be here. My mom took me a lot into the forest when I was a little child. I remember we were foraging for mushrooms, we were looking for herbs, we figured out what you could use it for, and we found secret gardens where we could harvest apples, and it was just one of my most favorite childhood memories. And now I have the honor to have little people with me and bring them into the forest and experience what I had. And the other day, we brought some paint into the forest, and this little child painted this beautiful art piece of orange and pink sea creature. And on the end, it was all blue and black. And if you don't know the story, you would have not seen the beautiful creature behind it. And I asked what happened, and she's like, oh, the water came in. So if you would have looked at this picture, it was just black and blue and nothing else. I think in pictures. And I think about people, and I see the world, I see it all in pictures. That's how it makes sense to me. So how I can describe my world is, my world is being on a merry-go-round. And I was on this merry-go-round, and I moved to Canada, and I was in this position of not really knowing if I should go right or should I go left? And that's tricky on a merry-go-round, because you never really go into a flow of spinning. And this happened more and more, and my thoughts were that merry-go-round. And I was safe on the merry-go-round, because I was married. I was with somebody on it. And after 20 years, my husband left, and I was still spinning on this merry-go-round. And it was getting faster and faster and faster. And I let go with my hands, and it became really, really scary. I didn't feel safe anymore. And I was spinning to the point that, and I have to mention, I did not know what mental health is. I was not educated on that at all. And I was spinning and spinning, and I forgot to eat, and I forgot to drink, and I didn't realize that. But I remember really, really clearly, there was a night, and I always thought like, oh, nobody sees that. I can super hide that. Like, nobody can see that my mental health is going down spiraling. But one night, my, at that time, 16-year-old daughter was not okay anymore. And the most bizarre thing is, I couldn't feel her anymore. And it felt like I'm in a glass house, and I can't reach my child. But I remembered there was this umbilical cord where you're still connected. And that morning, the next morning, I made sure she's okay, and I went to the doctor, and my doctor and I decided that it's time, that I need help. I really needed help. I was not okay anymore, and my child was not okay anymore. That was the moment where I decided, I need help. I cannot do this alone. So I called a friend, and she drove me to the hospital and arrived there. And the hospital is the place of healing. That's what I thought. And I arrived there, and there were some conversations. There was also the idea of like some antidepressants, which I started. But there's nothing to do. You're in this hospital, and imagine you're spinning and spinning in your thoughts, in your mind, and I was spinning a lot to the point that I couldn't talk anymore. My mind was spinning so fast that my body needed to get rid of all this energy. One of my good friends, she always said, like, Susa, you're jogging again. And because even when you're massive depressed, you can find some joy and jokes. It's not all dark. And so I was in that hospital, and yeah, there was nothing to do. And I was probably like, I would say 20 kilos less than I have now. And the food was, I think nurturing was really a wrong description. And my head was spinning more. And I have to say, like, I really understood that if I just mention that there's any thought of like, I don't want to hear anymore, then it becomes involuntary. That means you are stuck. So I didn't mention that. I didn't mention that I had like really dark thoughts. So I stayed in this hospital, and all the conversations were like, okay, but you could function, you could do this. And if you do not function, you could go on disability. I was like, oh, that's an option? No. So my friends visited me, and I went back home, and I was at home, and I remember I was just staring at the wall. And I could not make the right choices anymore. I could not. But I am one of the luckiest people in the world, because I had a community who loved me, who had reached out to my mom, who had, yes, behind my back, who had talked. And there was that night where my daughter flew in to be there and take care of her sister, and that my family and my community decided that there's only one person in the world who would take care of you 24 hours, 7 days a week, and who loves you unconditionally. That is your mom. So in the time span of a week, my house was packed. My friend was holding my hand. He's like, what do you want to keep? My daughter was looking for photos. My younger daughter went to school. Every night, some friends had dinner with me to actually really see that I eat. And I remember some things. I don't remember a lot of things. I remember in between I was jogging. And then I was going on an airplane. And before I went to that airplane, my older daughter said, Mom, you have to promise me. Look at your hand and remember me. Remember the 5. This is the basics. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to sleep. Please take your medication, and once a day, get out of the house and feel the sunshine. So I flew to Germany, and that flight was one of the most terrifying moments in my life, because I felt I've lost everything, I'm going to get shipped off. It's not true, but that's how it felt. And arrived in Germany at my parents', and I was in that old room, and I remember my dad saying, you know what, you could sleep with us in our room. You don't have to be alone. I said, oh no, I'm fine. Which was clearly not the point. And that night, it was the darkest night of my life. And it sounds crazy, but I was glad I had a laptop. Because on this laptop, I found podcasts about how people made it to survive. Because just falling asleep felt so wonderful, because I couldn't sleep at all. And then I remembered that a friend said to me, you know what, sometimes it's not a good day or night. Sometimes it's also not a bad day or night. Sometimes it's just a day. Sometimes it's just a night. And do it second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. Just keep on going. So I did. I survived that night, and like I promised my daughter, I went up in the morning and I found the sunshine. I found nature again. And then in Germany, you probably realize everything is organized, and my almost 80-year-old mom was organized. She had it all figured out for me. She dragged me to the city hall the next morning, and somebody opened my passport and crossed out Sidney. And because I was spinning and spinning and spinning, I also had spun myself in this really dark space of like complete fear. And in that moment, then this person crossed out Sidney. I completely freaked out, because I thought I will never be able to go to Canada. I will never be able to see my kids. And what are you doing? It's literally like you becoming a conspiracy theory in your head. You just completely, like, fear is like the main drive. I was spinning and spinning. And I remember my mom dragging me. We were going outside, and my poor mom, I yelled at her, and just yelled at her that how could she do that. And she didn't say that much, but I know I frightened her, and I know I really hurt her. And we're laughing about it now, because we're saying now, like, you know, like, you gave me birth twice. I don't know which birth was more difficult. And we went to the hospital a couple of days later, because it was clearly that my parents were not able to help me. And I remember this doctor who said, like, you understand that you have to say at one point, yes, you're gonna come to hospital, you're gonna stay here. And I said, like, yeah, but I don't understand all this. And it's like, look, if you would fracture your leg, would you just question this? I said, like, no. He said, like, yeah, imagine, like, your brain is severely injured. Your heart, your soul is severely injured. You need help. And sadly, there's no happy pill. There's no special remedy how to do that. But we will do that with you. And I don't know if you know me, but like you, I was still in my conspiracy theory, and I was still spinning, and I was like, okay. And then I finally said yes, and I agreed, but just for one night, not for longer, just for one night. Everybody, you have to promise me, if I want to leave after one night, I can leave. Well, yes, that was the promise. And I stayed in that hospital, who has actually 14 psych wards. It's a normal local hospital. I stayed there, and I stayed there for 7 months. I knew my daughters are fine. I knew my younger daughter lives at her second dad and second mom. She's going to school, she's have her friends, like her life will be going on. And I need that pause. And this hospital, it was an older hospital, like the psych ward where I was not really nicely renovated or anything. It was just like, we had like there was one community like shower, because it was all, they had to know that there's only one person in that area, and the beds were like old hospital beds. But there was something about it, because it was where I originally am from. It's the place where I was born. It's actually the place where my older daughter was born. And there was a little bit of talking with doctors and all that. And because I was so spinning and fidgeting with my body, they actually made the choice to give me a little bit of stronger medication. And I agreed on that. I was like, okay. It was this really, really amazing nurse. She said, like, why wouldn't you? Like, I really wish for you that you can take a breath, because you can't. I can see that your heart is pounding up here, and your breath goes like literally until here. So I did that before my parents came, and then my parents came and we went for a walk in the sunshine, and it's like they have quite an amazing park there. And it was the first time after months that I could hear birds sing. And I saw a butterfly, and I could see it. I was like, wow, that's the world, that's beautiful. And while I was in that hospital, there was like a lot of other people, like a big manager from a local car company, like a nurse, a pharmacist, a mom with her young child, because it was also a place where women can come with their young children. All different kind of people. And you know what? Instantly we became community, because we were all in this together. And I couldn't understand for a while what the whole idea of the healing was, but to be honest, if you start your day with a German breakfast, it's not that bad. It was actually really good. It was like fresh baked buns, and it was just like all the food which like completely resonated in my body, because it was how I grew up with, and it was like really good cooked meals, and it was just really amazing. So like they always called me like, oh, there comes a skinny one. yeah, so it was the food, and it was almost like the merry-go-round was going so fast, and they just stopped it completely, and with that medication, and I literally like kind of fell off, and I was like, clunk, okay, I'm not gonna move anymore. And I just read the hospital report the other day, and they said that it was really quiet. Nobody knows me like that. I'm not a quiet person. And I was really calm and still. And then they said, like, okay, now you start your therapy. And I was like, what do you mean therapy? I was like, well, you know, like, we have these things, they structure your day. And for me, it was like, kind of like they gonna take my hand and put it on the outside of a merry-go-round, and then they teach me to do one step, and then another one. So my day was filled with going to yoga. Actually, start the day outside. You go for a walk, and then you have breakfast, and then you can add certain therapies to your day. You can do yoga. You can go to the art studio. You can go learn some sewing. You can go to a wood workshop. You can experiment with all different kind of things, and you learn mindfulness. You learn certain muscle relaxation therapies, and I hated it. I was like, I did art, and I put some charcoal, and I made this big circle, this black circle, like I think for 1.5 hours. And there was something about it that they do it every day. Every day, and the nurses always check in with you every night, and they really are invested in you because you become like, they really care. There was a real amazing feeling of caring. That's all I can describe. It's a real feeling. And yeah, I was there, and I was doing these things. And then I found my friend. I made a friend, and we were actually going to the local grocery store, and we bought ourselves some food, and we cooked food together. And also the whole plan of the hospital was like, you had to do group activities. You had to come up with ideas what you do together. If it's like baking a cake and having the cake together, or figuring out an activity like bowling, but like nobody was a real bowler, so we just stopped that. And so we went to the cinema and walked to the cinema together, and some people couldn't sleep at all, so it was just some things were harder for them. Like, I started to play volleyball, which I never thought I would do. My daughter would be really proud. And I was there, and I learned how to walk. And I knew that my daughters are okay. They're really taken care of. Friends of us built a room for her in their big living room. So took her in, and I knew that they are all okay. And I always remembered the 5. It was really big. And then it started to be a day therapy where I actually could sleep at my parents' house and just go there for the day. And then guess what? COVID came. And from one day to the other, every therapy was shut down. There was nothing. So there I was again in a hospital with nothing to do. And I started to spin a little bit. I lived at my parents. I was 53 at that time, and I felt like the 18-year-old teenager living in the room. And you just kind of live together, and you just start to be annoyed a little bit of each other, right? It's just really the normal process. And I really, I needed something to do. So we watched the news, and there was this call out that there's no farmer's helper coming anymore. So I was like, well, I can do that. Instead of being inside the whole time, or like just be a little bit in the yard of my parents. I could be outside in a field. So I biked over to this farmer, and he's like, sure, come over. So we had this big tractor thing where 6 people sit on, and you plant 20,000 cabbage plants a day. So that's what I did. But with COVID, there was also an intuition in my body. And I was like, I really have to listen to this. And I also talked to my daughter on the phone, to my younger daughter at that time. And I could hear in her voice that it's not okay anymore that I'm away. There was this yawning for me. And in a way, with all that fear I had around me and not feeling safe, I felt like I have to be her safe spot. My head was still spinning a lot. But I realized I have to do it. At one point I said, I want to function again. So I was really committed to function. And so I went back. I tried 3 times to buy a ticket. It was always canceled. And finally, I arrived. And arrived back in Canada in my community. And arrived at a place where a friend had kept her apartment for me. Arrived at a place where my friends had kept all my furniture. Stored it at a place, at a friend, and brought it all into this apartment. And my daughter was insisting that she needs to hug me, and it was COVID. And there's this, I arrived at the ferry terminal, and there was this, kid with, emoji onesie, with, masks and goggles and, a hoodie and gloves and socks really wide. And my daughter saw me, and she just jumped on me and hugged me, and it was amazing. I just knew, I was back home, my yawning for, my child in Canada and my community was there. And the interesting part was, I have met Emily before that, and I was really committed to go to a connection project that day, in October. But I was actually in the hospital when I watched it. And that was also something I knew when I'm coming back. With Emily, there's a community of people who understand me, where I can be open and talk about my experience. And they will relate because they know what I'm talking about. I have the biggest gratitude. And I really don't like it when people say, oh, you should really hang out with positive people. You should hang out with happy people. What does that mean? So you just, all the unhappy people should leave? Is that the solution to population? I don't think so, no. It means having a friend who says, hey, I'm going shopping. You want to come? And hey, I'm doing a bottle drive. Do you want to sort bottles? And if you are a person like me who needs community, then it's exactly the right question. And what I learned about mental health is what I work on with little children. It's not about how are you, because that question is how are you? You never say really what's happening. It's are you okay? And if somebody says no, it's can I do something for you? And the other day a little kid said, you don't have to say anything. I'm just here, so you're not alone. So that's what I wish for all of us. But we have somebody who holds our hand, and you don't have to say anything, but you're not alone. So thank you.
Hey everybody. My name's Grace Leonard. I am a singer-songwriter from Brentwood Bay. So I'm going to play a couple original songs for you today, one right now and one a little later. This first song, I think, really fits with that story. It's called Breathe For Me, and it's about just sometimes you just need a hand from someone else, just to say, slow down, everything's just going too fast, and just chill. So here's Breathe For Me. Another day is gone away. Everything always seems to change. Such a rate, always late. Can't slow down, appreciate. She said, breathe for me, sleep for me. Another year, brand new fears. Time keeps slowly ticking away. Doesn't feel very real when everything's racing on away. And she said, breathe for me, sleep for me. Breathe for me, sleep for me. Let me take you on a holiday. Slow down, rest with me, and honestly, no need to ever worry, just slow down, there is no hurry. I'm telling, I'm not right. Don't let anybody burden, just come on and stop your hurting. No telling me no lies. She said, breathe for me, sleep for me. Breathe for me, sleep for me. Thank you.
Thanks for rolling out the red carpet for me. My name's Ash. I just want to start by saying I'm pretty nervous. Not going to lie. I'm partly nervous because I'm a little bit scared. Scared of being judged. Although I'm pretty sure I'm in a pretty safe place here. Being judged because some of the things I might say, I might start crying uncontrollably. That's a fear of mine. But I'm also scared that I might not show any emotion at all, and that's probably because I've been overwhelmed with emotion thinking about some of the things I might be saying. I spent 17 years in the military. I was medically released in 2020, September 2020, so just over 2 years ago. Yeah, it was a very difficult time in my life. I had no clue what I was going to do, had no clue how I was going to support my family. I was completely lost. I was released for PTSD, and I didn't really know how to function. I didn't know how to live as a civilian. I'll come back to that though. I started, the other thing I'm scared about being judged is that I'm also transgender. I was born female, and yeah, I remember my earliest memory. I was in grade 6. I was the tallest kid in my class. I pretty much stopped growing at that point. Yeah, my mom sat me down and she told me I needed to wear a training bra because I started developing breasts. This mortified me. I started wearing baggy shirts, bigger clothes. I didn't want anyone to know I was wearing one. Wearing the tightest bra I could possibly find. I, eventually talked to my doctor about getting a breast reduction. I think it was a B cup or something. So, yeah, didn't really need one. There wasn't any medical reason for it. But a couple weeks after I started wearing this bra, another girl started wearing one at school. And I didn't understand because all the girls in my class were ecstatic. They're, grade 6 girls, like jumping up and down, screaming, all wanting training bras. And I had no clue why this was such a big deal. Like, what was the excitement about it? Like, why aren't you trying to hide this? So maybe that was my first indication that I wasn't really in the right body. I grew up in a small city outside of Vancouver, and I didn't really know anyone in the LGBTQ community. There wasn't really much one in school. I basically thought once I graduated from high school, I was supposed to go to university, find some dude to marry, have 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, and a dog, right? Your typical Canadian family. That definitely did not happen. I did go to university. I didn't stay in university, but I joined the military when I was 17. So I was a reservist, I was a medic, and this is probably the first place in my life where I felt like I belonged. I was in the right spot. It didn't really matter what I wore because I wore the same thing as every other person there. Had my beret, had a green uniform. I had a purpose. I was there to help people. I was there to learn. I was there to teach. I ended up going overseas to Afghanistan in 2008. Going there, I was quite nervous. We're trained to expect the worst, pray for the best. First time going outside the wire, I was like everything was a threat. Every vehicle, every person, I was ready for absolutely everything. The first time I got shot at, we were sitting in a big convoy on a river, and I was sitting on top of my ambulance, my armored ambulance called a Bison. And yeah, I hear contact over the radio, I hear explosion behind me, and there's some pepper pods beside me, and I hopped back down in my vehicle, and all I could do was laugh uncontrollably. My whole crew was laughing. It's like, what kind of stupid people are you sitting on top of a vehicle in a wide open space where you could get shot at? Right. But this is kind of like down the road. This is a couple months. I've been in theater for a couple months. There was long nights, long days, saw some casualties, your typical, what you would expect in Afghanistan. Yeah. When someone would be injured or someone was killed, they'd have something called comms lockdown, where they shut down all the communication. And that's in order to allow them to talk to their next of kin first, so they don't find out about their loved ones through other means. And I was 6 months in, I was going on my leave, I was heading out to Bali. There was a comms lockdown, someone was killed, and I just did not care. I didn't care who it was, didn't want to know. I was going on my plane, heading out, going on vacation, getting the heck out of that country. I get to Dubai, which is, we get off our military plane and we catch our civilian plane and we go off to other parts of the world. And I find out it was one of my best friends. You know what, he wasn't even supposed to be on our tour. He was one of those guys who was a private, and he would go off and make a shitty situation better. Like, I remember him having to go out and pick out some cigarette butts from the snow. He doesn't even smoke. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever you want, I'm going to go do it. He's just that type of person. He wasn't supposed to be on that patrol. He wasn't supposed to be there. I remember having a conversation before we left, and he had this brand new tattoo, beautiful tattoo down his arm, and he's like, you know what, I'd rather die than lose my arm. And I don't know, at the time I agreed. I'd rather have him around. I'd rather him lose his arm and have him around, because I think he could still make a shitty situation better. Yeah, I came back, was living in Vancouver as a reservist, and all I wanted to do was go back overseas. I don't know why, it just felt like unfinished business. But this is the first time I had any sort of indication of PTSD, or OSI, occupational stress injury. I was walking up the street, it was Halloween, there were some kids throwing some firecrackers in the street, and I could see them, I know it was happening, I walked past them, and they throw some firecrackers, not at me, back in the street where they were throwing it. I knew it was happening, turned around, and I basically lit them up. I tore a strip up them, and I'm pretty sure they never threw another firecracker ever again. That's not like me. I know kids are kids, they're having fun, they weren't injuring anyone, they weren't doing anything, they weren't throwing at cars, they're just being kids. But that was the type of reaction I had, because it just brought me back to a place where I did not want to be. Down the road, I went back overseas. 2012, I was mostly working at a base hospital in Rural 1. Yeah, it was decent. Still came back feeling like I had unfinished business, but needless to say, I got posted out to Victoria, out to the Pacific Fleet. It was probably at the prime of my life. I definitely had some issues moving out here. Definitely had some issues going on course. Wasn't processing anything. I was running away from everything and avoiding everything. We had this course called the Road to Mental Readiness, and on it they had this mental health continuum model where you had green, yellow, orange, red, and they had different things for each category. So one of them is the sake joking, for example. You know, you have jokes that you laugh about, then you have inappropriate jokes, and you have ones that are completely offside. When we came back, we were all looking at this mental health continuum model, and we're like, oh, we're all in the red. It's like there should be another category after this red. That's how far gone we are. But the thing is, what they would say is, if you're in the yellow and orange, this is when you should go see someone and, you know, talk about your feelings or whatever. But you're more likely to come back to the green and still be able to be a productive member in the military if you go see someone early. Instead, I waited 10 years, something like that. Way too long. I mean, the fact that I looked at this mental health continuum model, I was like, yeah, I'm done, right? And still joking about it. It's not really a joke, though. I got posted up to the Navy, which is great. I love being on the water. There's something about going out to sea and having like the moonlight and the stars, no pollution whatsoever, and seeing them reflect off the water as you're sailing. And that was my meditation right there. That's where I needed to be. I was posted onto a ship. It's the biggest ship in the fleet. It was also the oldest ship in the fleet. We were coming back from Hawaii, and middle of the Pacific Ocean, we had an engine fire. This fire burnt for about 9 hours. We were getting to a point where it's like, do we abandon ship? It wasn't really announced that was the plan. They were going to give one last go at the sprinklers, and if that didn't work, then that's what was going to happen. But you could just tell there was a change in the atmosphere. It went from being very noisy, people moving stuff, people yelling things, orders left, right, and center, to being completely quiet. It's a little bit eerie, so quiet. And all I was thinking in my mind was like, where do I need to be? What do I need to do if we go overboard? Remember, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So we ended up putting out the fire, got towed back to Hawaii. There's a lot of people that I felt responsible for, being a medic. These are friends. These are people I lived with on a ship. They're people I partied with. They're people I hung out with, ate with, worked with. And yeah, coming back, they kept us together as a crew for the most part. And I just started seeing people go downhill. And me as a medic is trying to convince these people to go see help, or trying to, hold their hand through this. And getting posted away was probably one of the hardest things I felt, because I felt like I was leaving these people with no one there to support them. Needless to say, I'm here telling everyone to go get help, but really I was probably the one who needed the help most. What I learned is that I can't take care of anyone else until I take care of myself. So actually shortly before that fire, I made a decision to change my gender. This wasn't an easy decision. Well, once I made it, it was actually quite easy. But leading up to it, it's like, there's a lot of fear. being trans isn't a mental health condition, but there's a lot of things that are in front of me that made it difficult. I had a lot of anxiety about telling my parents who were always very supportive of me. Like, they pretty much told me I was gay back when I was 18, 19 or something. They said that they'd love me no matter what. And even though I knew that in the back of my head, it was still very hard to tell them. It was hard to bring it up to people at work. It's like, how do we go about, with like rooms and stuff, and like, what kind of uniform do you wear? Do you wear, the men's DUs, or do you wear the women's? A lot of navigation with the medical system too. Needless to say, I think things turned out pretty well for myself. One thing that people did comment that I really appreciated was how happy I was. Seeing me before and seeing me after, there's just something different. Maybe because I'm a little bit more comfortable in my own body. Part of that decision I had to make, even though it wasn't true, in the back of my head, I made a decision saying I was never going to be loved. I would never have a partner, because who would want to date someone who's trans? That's just so complicated. It's even complicated for me, so I can't imagine someone else. I would never have kids, being on testosterone. And that was a big thing. Going from, 17, thinking I'm going to get married to some dude, white picket fence, 2 children, right? So not having kids was a big decision. Needless to say, I have a partner. We've been together for quite some time. I have a 4-year-old who is pretty much my life. Even if I don't want her to be, she makes it part of my life, so constant reminder, right? Yeah, we got posted out to Vancouver. Military is very good about being like, hey, what 3 places do you want to live? Okay, we're not going to give you any of those. We're going to send you somewhere else. Right. So, which is one of the reasons why it's so hard to get out, because they're like, what do you want to be? It's like, I don't know. Shouldn't you be telling me what I want to be? Shouldn't you be telling me what to do, what courses I should be on? Because that's what we do in the military. They have a career progression for you. They have the courses laid out for you. They tell you what to do, where to go, who to be, essentially. You're in a green uniform, so you have a presence to maintain. And I didn't do very well in Vancouver. I was diagnosed with PTSD. And with that diagnosis, it was almost like I felt like I was being isolated from some friends. It's like, oh, like, you have PTSD, and yeah, we don't know how to deal with that anymore. Or maybe they saw it in themselves, and it's like something contagious. It's like, oh, I can't hang out with them because I might have PTSD too. Yeah, it was difficult. I got a message saying I was going to be medically released, and everything started spiraling downhill quite fast. Shortly after finding I was going to be medically released, I went on a bit of a tangent. I was completely lost. I was doing everything wrong. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I remember being in a hotel room, doing everything wrong. Anything possible that could harm me, I was probably doing. And I remember falling asleep thinking, like, it's okay if I don't wake up in the morning. If I don't wake up, that's okay. It wasn't suicidal per se. I didn't have a plan, but I was passively suicidal. I Do you remember probably the one thing that kept me from going over that edge was my daughter. She wasn't even 1 at the time, and I couldn't imagine her growing up without a father. She probably saved my life. That process of getting released from the military was like a bus rolling down a steep hill without any brakes. You know it's going to end at some point in time, you know it's going to crash, and you're just along for the ride. They basically told me, here's your paperwork, hand in your uniforms, get all your medical documents signed, and yeah, I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do. What was my purpose? It's like I was in my 30s, mid-30s, so going to the park with your kid, and other dads are like, hey, what do you do for a living? It's like, oh, I'm retired. It's like, really? You're retired, what do you do? Probably think I was a drug dealer or something, I don't know. Yeah, could I be a stay-at-home dad? Sort of, but I'm really crappy at doing laundry. My partner would definitely tell you that. I always do everything wrong, so. We moved back to Victoria. We moved back into a house that we owned. So it was a little bit more comfortable, a little bit slower in pace. It was still difficult. I was in this program that is, is afterwards, it's called SISA, but they basically put you through school for 2 years, and they're like, what do you want to do? It has to be something medical. It's like, well, if I could be a medic, I'd probably still be in the military. Just saying. So that wasn't going very well. And then eventually they switched me over to a different case manager, and I was talking to her. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do the medical stuff. I don't want to work in a hospital. I don't want to be a lab tech. I don't want to do anything medical. It's obviously not for me. I love it. I love it with all my heart. I love helping people. I love seeing people grow and get better. And that was really hard because I was really good at my job. Yeah, I dabbled in the construction industry. I had no clue even how to put on a hard hat, or I didn't have any steel-toe boots. If you see me use a hammer, geez. I still miss nails all the time. That's why I became an electrician. We have a bunch of clients, and that's our hammer, so. But that being said, when I started going down that route and I started having that purpose and that job, my life picked up again. I had a reason to wake up every morning. I had, something to learn, something to aspire to. My kid was doing great. She's still doing great. Yeah, and it goes back to, I don't have the 2 kids, but I almost have the white picket fence. I have the house. I have the partner. It's kind of like the Canadian dream. Yeah, it took a long time to get there. My psychologist basically told me, it's like, you know what? You have 2 choices. You can either go down this dark road that you were on, or you can take 1 step forward out that door, and it'll become easier. The next step, and the next step, and the next step. Yeah, and for the most part it is, except when shit happens. I was in school, and there was a bank robbery in the neighborhood. I was riding my motorcycle. I was taking my motorcycle road test, actually, so I was already nervous, and we're driving through that area. So I see these ambulances, and there's a difference between an ambulance going code 3 to some 90-year-old who's passed out and an ambulance going code 3 to an infant who's choking, right? You can just tell the difference in the way they're driving. And these ambulances were flying. They were going somewhere pretty fast. So you knew something big was happening, and I don't remember finishing the test. I don't remember how I got back to school. I do remember one of the kids at school showing me the gunfight that was happening in the neighborhood I was driving through, and that just that was it for me. I basically didn't leave my house for 5 days after that. And that's when my psychologist is like, you gotta take either that step out the door or you're going down that wrong path again. And you're going to lose your career, you're going to lose, everything that you worked towards. And that was difficult. It was definitely hard. These are things that I experience on a daily basis. Sometimes it's worse than others, and I've learned to deal with them in different ways. One thing I like to do is I like to go out to the forest. I like to go camping. Smelling campfire is just amazing when it comes down to how it chills me out, how it makes me relax. Even just thinking about it right now is helping me. But that being said, if I smell something else, like maybe a forest on fire and there's chaos or electrical fire or some kind of oil, they'll send me down a path again. And I'll go around looking for that source until I find it or until it goes away. I can't sleep. It's hard because I don't know how to talk to people about it. It's like I'm good most days, 90% of the days I'm good, and then, I get sick. Something happens and I can't leave my bed. And it's not because I have a cough, cold, or flu, it's because mentally I just can't get myself out of the bed. And I can't get myself out the door. I'll do everything in the house, even the things I don't want to do, like laundry. And even getting here tonight, I had a friend drive me because I probably couldn't trust myself to get here myself. And every time something happens, I want to either stay at home, and if I don't want to stay home, I want to get as far away from it as possible, and that's like out in nature somewhere. Yeah, that's pretty much my story. My one child, white picket fence. I don't have a dog, but I have a fat cat instead, so just keeps me busy. Anyways, thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I am an artist, and I've been painting and drawing for as long as I can remember. When I was a little girl, my mom always made sure I had every art supply around me at all times, and she really created this environment that just nurtured creativity for my brother and I. At the same time, the house that we grew up in was a extremely stressful environment. And I was maybe about 8 years old when I kind of realized that my parents were struggling and things were a bit different than everybody else's family. And I started to hear all these words in the house like depression and anxiety and schizophrenia and bipolar, and I didn't know what any of them meant, so I started researching them online, and it was like this deep dive into mental health issues, treatments for it. I was trying to just desperately search for a solution to help my family. And that continued on for quite a few years. And it kind of exhausted the search, still didn't know what to do. That also trickled in to the rest of my life, that intention of searching for an answer to create spaces that were healthy. So now I'm professionally trained in design and architecture, same intention, trying to figure out how to create a built environment that supports well-being. And at the same time, growing up, I started spending a lot of time in nature. I would stay in the forest by myself around our property for hours and hours, and I would never want to leave. And it was one of the first places that I felt safe and comfortable, no matter what. And I always used to wish like that was my house, in the trees, on the moss. A few years ago, about 4 years ago, I was struggling and I had hit a low point. I had just come out of a deep depression and very much lost myself. I had this feeling like I had to move home to Salt Spring, but didn't really know why. So I kind of uprooted my whole life based on a feeling and went there. I had also, at the same time, been experiencing quite debilitating panic attacks when I would think about this certain memory from when I was a kid. And the memory is of witnessing my parents having an argument kind of down the driveway outside. I was just a little girl, so I would try and hop up on the kitchen counter to see what was going on. But there was this huge maple tree in our front yard, and it was blocking the view. And I think that, well, at the time, it maybe was the not knowing what was going on that was so frightening. And that memory had stuck with me such a way that it was still affecting me so many years later. And, you know, in an intellectual way, later on I knew that that wasn't as severe as a situation as I thought it was, but the experience was still the same that I experienced in that moment. And so I was, about 4 years ago, I was experiencing one of these panic attacks, and it had happened many times before. So I was able to kind of string together the pattern of it and think about it in the moment, like asking questions like what is happening and why is this coming up and it's not a part of my life now. So I took a minute and I sat down and I decided to draw this memory. And I painted this first image that's going to come up on the screen. It's a picture of that sketch. And I mean, I drew the outline of this tree, which is all I could see, and it didn't really represent the memory properly, so I just scribbled on top of it because this memory was just something that was more completely black to me and really hard to make out in my mind. Really hard to see, but the feeling was mostly just blackness and darkness. So from all of the research I had done for many years, I had remembered things I'd read about trying to retrain your brain connection to different memories through artistic expression. And I was like desperate and I tried it out. So I immediately drew the same image and made up this scene of like an image of that memory that represented who I am today and how it related to me currently in the moment. And then I spent the next 6 months painting that picture. And this next image shows that finished painting. And it basically became the complete opposite of that memory, which is an explosion of color, as you can see. And it also became kind of the antidote to that darkness and the fear that was associated with it. And the process of that over many months, the process of creating this painting, allowed me to just bring it into current time. And now I'm able to think of that memory, even though it may be sad, it doesn't consume my whole physical being when I go back to that memory. And so this is really represents like who I am as a person, and what I need to do to be who I am is to just live in full color all the time. So I continue to do that and paint landscapes as I had been for so long. This next image shows a really special place to me on Salt Spring. It's a beach, it's called Walker's Hook. I have good memories of being there when I was younger. And I was specifically trying to capture that landscape in a way that felt like this beautiful, soft, comforting dream. Because that's what nature's always been to me. And the land has always kind of just like held me when I needed it and created a space for me. This next image is another example of kind of trying that same artistic style out, blurring the lines between like a realistic representation and just a kind of this dream world that I always live in, dream world of color. But this one was super important to me because this was also another place that I went when I was struggling and spent a lot of time at this specific beach, many different types of days, but I always found like the fog and the rain to be very comforting. So this idea of kind of searching for truth within my own self and my memories and the process of healing, also those questions kind of seeped out into all the rest of my life. Just questions about, how did I get here in this place specifically? What is the world? And how does it apply to me? And how do I fit in it? All that kind of stuff. And I've always drawn and painted, represented nature as this pristine entity of beauty. And I became to understand, as I was learning about other things in my life, that this is maybe not the whole truth. And I felt like I needed to kind of dig deeper and to be able to fully love the land the way that I do. Like I needed to be able to find a way to represent a truth that wasn't as beautiful. So this next image shows kind of something that's like taking the subject matter of what I love so much and kind of showing the destruction that's been caused on it just from resource extraction and colonialism, and just taking the lens off of this pristine beauty and really loving it for the truth of what it is. And to paint nature in this way made me incredibly sad, and that made me know for sure that it was important to do. It was something that I just never really looked at before because I just didn't feel like I had to. But I had understood it in a new way that forced me to do that. And this next painting I called it Crown Land because it, for me, represented maybe the ugly side that I shied away from looking at for a long time. But in order to love something fully, I feel like love doesn't know the difference between beauty and ugliness, and I needed to love both, and the process for me to do that is to paint. So this next image shows the two side by side. They both represent just truth seeking for me in who I am, in my own understanding of myself and the world and where I fit into it. But also they represent things that I love most in the world, which is myself and nature, because it has gotten me through some very hard times. And I mean, I will continue to do that for a long time, forever, to paint landscapes. And I'm excited to see what comes next. And that's my story. Thank you.
Hey, I'm back. So last year I was an audience member at the Connection Project, and so I got to witness all these great speakers, all different speakers last year, but and music and art. And so over this last year, I've sort of constructed this song. It's called "What Will Define," and I had to think about like what it's about. You know, I write all these songs and it's like, what's this about? And so this one, if I could put it into words, this one's sort of not being able to communicate how you're feeling, and like on the outside you might be totally functioning member of society, but on the inside not so much maybe,
and just you might feel like you're screaming out for help and it's not there, but you can get there on your own regardless. So it's called "What Will Define." Here it is.
Light as a feather, deep as the sea. Will somebody notice what's been stirring inside of me? If nobody cares, but everyone cares, but nobody knows. I've been light as a feather, hardly as free. But I'm waiting, heads above the water, praying. Hold on a little longer. I don't know why. There's this pain in my chest and my side, but I know that if lately it's got a little darker, and maybe I should go see a doctor. I don't know why. There's this pain in my heart and my mind, but I can decide. What will define me? No, I can decide. What will define me? Light as a feather, bright as the sun. Will somebody notice what a mess that I've become? If everyone cares, but nobody cares, but nobody knows. I've been light as a feather, shot by a gun, but I'm waiting, heads above the water, praying. Hold on a little longer. I don't know why. Have this pain in my chest and my side, but I know that of lately it's got a little darker, and maybe I should go and see a doctor. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I have this pain in my heart and my mind, but I can decide. What will it find me? No, I can decide. What will it find me? I don't know if I'm speaking loud enough. Got my arms outspread, I've been praying to God. I wonder if he would listen, or somebody else. Probably not, we got our own little world to ourselves. All alone, I'm here kicking dust in the road. Got my hands outspread here, cause nobody knows. I wonder if he would listen if I was somebody else. Probably not, probably not. I should just be myself. I should just be myself. But I'm waiting, heads above the water, I'm praying. Hold on a little longer. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I have this pain in my chest and my side, but I know that of lately it's got a little darker, and maybe I should go and see a doctor. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I have this pain in my heart and my mind, but I can decide. What will find me?
Thank you. Thank you. Another day is gone away. Everything always seems to change. Such a rate, always late. Can't slow down, appreciate. She said, breathe for me, sleep for me. Another year, brand new fears. Time keeps slowly ticking away. Doesn't feel very real when everything's racing on away. And she said, breathe